Mhm. Later out of the class. So yesterday, my last question to the class was, how do we know that we got enough test cases? How do we know that we are covering everything? First is mapping them to requirements. How do we map to the requirements? How do we map requirement traceability matrix? So what is RTM called? Requirement traceability matrix. So we will write a requirement traceability and we will say that which test case is mapping to which requirement. So this way we will know that okay, we covered all the requirements. Okay. Yeah, hi Satya. Yeah. So we, by doing this, we know that we covered all the requirements and we did not leave any requirement. But that does not mean it will tell you how many test cases are enough to cover a single requirement. No, it can't tell you. Right? It can only tell you whether all the requirements are covered and are all test cases going to a requirement. You might write some test case which is not nowhere belonging to a requirement. Agree? So sometimes it is good to check whether it is going for a requirement or not. So at that time, what you should do? Test cases, I agree. First is always about coverage. First is always about coming to requirement. There are some techniques which will guide you to make test cases. There are some techniques. So what are those techniques? Techniques are divided into categories. Black box techniques. Because if you are doing black box testing, you will do black box techniques. Okay, and if you are doing white box testing, they are white box testing techniques. There is also, coming back, when you are doing testing, for example, I wrote a BRD, I wrote a user story. When will you test this user story? The user story will be tested once the product is developed, and then when you come into the testing phase, and then only you will test it. Because something I wrote wrong here. Means I wrote something wrong in the user story. Can't you read and point out to me? Don't you think that is testing? I wrote a user story document. I really didn't understand that and I wrote something which is crazy. And you feel it is crazy. You have to wait until the testing phase and tell that this is crazy. So you can't tell me. So generally, are there any meetings when I write a BRD or something? We will come. I will invite you. What is that called? BRD review meetings, requirements review meetings. So depending upon the company, if you are in Scrum, you can planning meeting or something, you can come. So that is called static testing. The first one is called static testing. Means you are not testing the product, you are testing some static content like documents. Agree? So this is called static testing. So review meetings, code inspection, code review. Agree? So you can also do design review meetings. Okay, design review. So generally people will write, when business analyst or someone will write BRD, they will write, developers will write FSD, functional specification document. Some people will say FDS or some people will say FRD, it depends upon them. But it's nothing but functional design. Got it? How they are designing that product. And some people will write detailed design documents. So they will be functional design. So let me write this functional specification design. This is like detailed design document. Okay. So what is there in the functional specification? What are the tables they are creating? What are the entities they are creating? Something like that. Detailed design. How they will give you what are the classes, what are the functions, how each function calls some other thing, So they will write in detail. Units are described here. Modules are described here. Flowcharts, modules and everything come into this one. And tables, entity relationship diagrams, everything will come here. BRD, sometimes it's not part of BRD, they are part of design too. Means see, a BA can write what? Activity diagram, use case diagram, but that is about functionality. most of them don't do class diagram. Business analysts won't do class diagram. That will be in detailed design. That will be in the design document. But there are nothing, not only class diagram, there is architecture diagram, there is, some other things which come into the design document. Number of pages and all this, URLs and all this will come there, and in the detailed design they will explain the code also. They will explain entity by small, piece by piece, like function by function, and entity by class, table by table, procedure by procedure, package by package, like that. Okay, so you will be going through all this meeting, so you should have an understand how to sit in a code review meeting. If someone is reading the code to you, you should point out a mistake if you really find something. If you are going through the inspection, you need, generally you will be invited, but that does not mean you should be asking something, but it's better to have a active participation in those meetings. Am I clear? Can I move on? I already explained you what is code review, code inspection before. I already explained you what is BRD review also. Agreed? So we can move on from here. But that is called static testing. So tester is doing testing even before the product is built. Agreed? But he is doing not on the product. He is doing on the document. So that is called static testing. So now coming to product. So first one is black box testing. Okay. There are 4 or 5 techniques here: equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis. Yes, go ahead.
When they explain it in the PRD review meetings, they keep the documents. So when do the test? They take the documents, then do the test.
Okay, it's not really testing. You are not really testing it. You are reviewing it. By reviewing, you are testing it. So don't tell that I am testing this document.
No.
Yeah. So when you are, so here Sujaya is asking me, like, if you have a meeting, so will they give the document in the meeting or before the meeting? Generally they will give you before the meeting, so that you can review and come with your points. So they will send an email invitation meeting, right? And again, everyone should know how to use Outlook. If you are coming here, if you want to go for a job, you should know how to use Outlook, how to send a meeting invite, and how to attach documents to a meeting invite. So people, if I am inviting you for a meeting, I will send you the documents which are necessary for that meeting along with the meeting invite. Am I clear? I know, see, it's because everyone is coming from a different background. I won't expect that you are, you would know how to. And remember, there are some things, actually, good point. How to use Outlook or Thunderbird or something, but Outlook is fine. Email etiquette. Okay. Can anyone tell me the spelling for etiquette? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that is very important. For example, simple thing. You should not write an email in caps. What does that mean? You are shouting at someone. Okay, so this kind of things you should know. We can't explain that. You have to go and Google it and find it out. Okay, so good thing. Okay, so please, you should know. And you should not use, like, chat language there. In emails, professional emails, you should not use keywords like you for you. This kind of words, you should not use it. Okay? Okay? Yeah, please don't look for shortcuts when you are emailing. Okay? And no spelling mistakes also. Very good, Satya. And generally Outlook will make sure there are no spelling mistakes. So better make sure you know how to use it. Okay? Alright, thank you. So that is also part of the course. Okay, coming back to equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis. So please read this. See, it's okay. When everyone started, we learned over the period only. So it's okay. But even after knowing it, if you're not going back and checking on this, that is your mistake. Okay? Yeah. Don't get embarrassed before others. Better get embarrassed before us. Okay? Yeah. Alright, boundary value analysis, equivalence partitioning, decision tables. state-based testing. Okay, and there is error guessing. Okay, so these are some of the techniques. We will come through all of them. Okay, so generally you got a functionality. For example, there is a functionality. There is always positive and negative side for it. Okay, this is also called positive and negative testing. Agree? The first technique, what is the first technique we are learning? Equivalence, yeah, pairwise, very good, Satya. Okay, so first one is equivalence partitioning. So what is equivalence partitioning? So if there is a functionality, there are two sides to it. That is called positive and negative, valid and invalid. So some people will say that, do you know how to do negative testing? Do you know how to do invalid testing? So it's the same thing. Do you know how to use equivalence partitioning? It is the same thing. For example, see, for example, there is a TV. Okay, there is a TV. Let's say I will, the TV is on. I want to change the channel. I will click on the up button or down button on the channel and it will change the channel. That is, means I am testing the channel functionality. The TV is on, I am testing it. The TV is off, I can still test it. It shouldn't do anything. Agree? So, for example, like I want to change a channel on the TV. I want to test it. The channel changing functionality. The TV is on. I will, use the less than or the greater than button and it will change the channel depending upon that. I should test it with the TV is off also. The TV is off. If I am changing the channel functionality, how is it behaving? It should not do anything, or it should really power on. Okay, you understood, right? So you should test it a valid case, you should test the invalid case also. So let me come to some other example. For example, the lift is, for example, I am testing an elevator. I will go into elevator, I am in the ground floor, I go into the elevator and I press 2. It should go to the second floor. Agree? It should close the door, it should go to the, I go into an elevator, I don't do anything. Should test for this invalid. These are invalid cases. Doors will close, doors will open, it won't go anywhere. If it is going to floor 2, that is wrong. It cannot go to any floor just because I didn't press anything. So you should test for valid cases, you should test for invalid cases also. For example, you went to registration box. You entered your email address, you entered your password and everything, it should register you. But if you do the same registration again, if you click the register button again, the user is already registered. You understood, right? Agree? So for example, I don't enter anything in Alright, can everyone hear me now? Yes, I will repeat this. So, a system, generally if you give valid inputs in, it should give you valid output. If you don't give valid inputs, if you give garbage in, it should not give garbage out. So that is the key we are learning. Like a system should be guiding the person. System should be telling what is wrong with the person. For example, if you give something in the registration, like for example, if you give invalid email address, if I tell registration failed, will you like it? You will ask, what did I do wrong? For example, if I give, if I forget the phone number, if it tells registration invalid, you don't like it, you should tell me exactly what did I do wrong. Understood, right? so that it can guide me. So system should be built for valid and system should be built to handle the invalids. So that is called positive and negative testing or equivalence partitioning. Equivalence partitioning means dividing a functionality into multiple domains. Equivalence partitioning. Partitioning in equivalent way means you are dividing the functionality into valids and invalids. Agree? So now I will come back and I will ask you now. So let's give some functionality. For example, there is a tap. If you press it, it will give you water. So tell me valid and invalid. Yes, that is valid. Very good. Now tell me invalid. If I remove that, water should stop. If I put it for 24 hours, what will my system do? If I put it for 24 hours, I press it on until the water is done. What it should do? It can't give sound, right? It can't shake or it can't, So it should not release water. That's it. You understood, right? So even though there is no water, if I consumed all the water, it should still behave the same, means good way. Not it should shake something, or you understood, right? So those kind of testing is called invalid testing. Am I clear? So now coming back, I will give you login functionality. Tell me valid and invalids. Login functionality. Username. White box QA login functionality. Valid email address, valid password. So it will log in. No, you should be registered with the white box QA. It's not just because the email is valid. A valid email address means already registered email. If the person is registered email address valid and the password same, it will log in. Tell me the invalid cases. Yes, if they are not registered, they try to log in. Very good. Next. If the email address is not valid and they try to log in. Next. If the password is not right and if they try to log in. Next. Very good. 3 invalid cases. Next. If they don't enter something and click login, it should give the, so see, the number of invalid cases will be more than the number of valid cases. Agreed? So that is why negative testing takes more time than positive testing. Okay? Very good. Enter script. Okay. Security testing. Very good. SQL injection. So we'll go there. Alright. Yes, just give email address and not password. Just give password but not email address. So these are all there. Yeah. Okay. Very good. So that is why. For example, let's say for example, there is a, like you are going and buying a new car. So which car you want to buy? Mercedes Benz. Tell me the model. E350. Okay. Alright. Okay. Alright. So yeah. Really E350? Okay, I don't know. Okay. Alright. Okay, maybe yeah. So okay. So E350. Alright. So yes, case sensitive. Rani is telling that case sensitive, but the email address can't be case sensitive for any login. Only passwords are case sensitive. Login, usernames are not case sensitive. Very good. But you can test with case sensitivity. Very good. Yeah, that is a good test case, Ran. No one told me how to for login. Yeah. Okay, coming back. So for example, you want to go and get a Benz E350 very new one. If, for example, loan, if your credit score, let's say if your credit score is from 650 to 800, or can it be 900 also? Okay, 9, what is the max? 930. If your credit score is from 650 to 930, we will give you financing on 3% or 2%. Or don't tell me 0%. Okay, 3%. 3%. So if it is less than 650, it is some other rate. If it is greater than 930, so we won't give you, for example, we won't give you loan if it is less than or greater than. So tell me what is valid, tell me what is invalid. Tell me what is a valid test case. Tell me what is an invalid test case. No, I will not write. We won't accept. We won't accept. If you are below 650, we won't give you financing. Am I clear? Valid is what? Between 650. So you need to pick a number from 650 to 900. So tell me what is invalid. Below 650 and one above 900. So you have two invalids, one valid. Do you see that? So now, do I have to test for 655, 700, 750? No. So take one test case from valid, one test case from every invalid. Got it? Take a test case from domain. Don't take a test case, every possible test case. So you understood what is equivalence partitioning telling? So if you see a domain, if you see a functionality, divide it into domains. How many domains are there? 3 domains are there. What are the 3 domains? One is between 650 to 900, one is less than 650, one is greater than 650. So take one from them. So you don't, it doesn't matter like is it 651, 652, that you have already done that case. Understood? So you don't need to do that again. So how many test cases you got? 3. You got 3 test cases. You need at least 3 to do equivalence partitioning. You don't need more, you don't need less. Am I clear? Okay. So that is one test. That is one technique. So it is guiding us to make test cases. Agreed? So you need to take only one from each domain, not every possible value from each domain. Clear? Okay. Next thing is boundary value analysis. Yeah. Boundary value analysis. What is the boundary for this functionality? What is the lower boundary? What is the upper boundary? 900. Most of the bugs, most of the programmers make mistake around the boundary. Got it? Because they will write in the program less than or equal to 650 or greater than. So the person might have forgot equal to. The person might have written less than, greater than 649 or 650. So most of the bugs will happen around boundary. So you have to test around the boundary always. So what are the, so you have to test for 649, you have to test for 650, you have to test for 651, you have to test for 899, you have to test for 900 and 901. Because you should not allow 901. Agree? You should not allow 649. Equivalence we take in the domain, but that does not mean we are taking 650. Boundary value analysis is telling that you have to test 650. Equivalence partition is telling that take one from 650 to 900, only one. So we are not taking 900, we are not, so we will take around 700 or something. So you have to test for 649, you have to test for 650, you have to test for 651, you have to test for 899, 900, 901. Agree? So that is called boundary value analysis. Now coming back, in your login functionality, tell me the boundary. In your login functionality, tell me the boundary. The number of characters on that email address box, you can break that. You can have only one @ sign in any email address. You can't have more than one @ try. If there is any email address without the @ sign, it is not. It should end with .com, .org, .co, this one. You should test for .co. You should take, because .co is very new. Many people don't still support it because they don't know that it was existing 10 years back. Agreed? It came last year only, .co. So you should try for .org, .co and all this, every possible domain, every an @ sign. And for example, some email addresses allow dot, some email addresses allow underscore, some email addresses allow hyphen. Agreed? So you should make sure they are being allowed. Agreed? So that are boundaries for email address. What is the boundary for password? So some people will say that I should have one capital, one number, one special character. So that is the boundary of password. Agree? Very good. Okay, so you know how to do boundary testing now. So generally, so now you know how to come up with test cases. So when you see something, what is the first thing you'll see? First, cover every requirement. Oh, am I covering every domain in the functionality? Oh, am I covering every boundary in the functionality? Okay, so these two are done. I don't know, I forgot the third one, I think.
I've been wondering, like, if we're testing it, if it's password, so if password doesn't contain numbers or something.
See, for example, in my system, I have want every password should contain one caps lock, one number. If you are putting a password which does not have a number, or it should tell me that invalid password during registration. That is the boundary. So it should be defined in the system. It should be defined in the requirements, not anywhere else. Agreed? Yeah. Yes, Anuradha, you are right. It should be in registration. I completely agree. But yeah, it won't test in the login. I completely agree. So it should be in the registration. Very good. Looks like this batch is out, like very good. Means really, like, I think you are bringing all the previous knowledge. Satya is old batch actually. So Rani is this new batch. Yeah, and but it is not Rani. Okay. Yeah. So whatever the previous experience you have, it will help you definitely. Yeah. But after a while, everything will be new for everyone. Yeah. Okay. So coming back, that's good. I am not discouraging anyone. That's good. So if you are bringing something, if you are challenging, that is very good. Please do it. Okay. Because you will make the class more interesting. Yeah. So coming back, boundary value analysis is done. Then the next thing is decision tables. What is this decision tables? For example, this financing. Do you think this financing will be that simple? If you have 650, you have 900 or anything? For example, if you don't have any credit history, right, we will still finance you if you show the job. If you show that, last 3 months of pay stub or something, but we will give you at a rate of 10. Agreed? And you have to show that you are working currently. If you don't have history, you can bring a co-applicant. We will base on that, we will do a joint application and we will base on that. And if you are on average history, like 650, 670, we will give you for 6%. If you are above 700, 750, we will give you for 3%. So there are so many choices. Do you see that? So there are so many choices. When there are these kind of choices, you don't know how to map these things. Agree? So let's write a number of decisions. So generally, how this APR decision will be made? Good score. Okay, good score means above 750. Agree? Above 750. How much will you get? 3%. Okay. Average score means, let's say, 600 to 750. Okay, 600 to 750 we will give you for 6%. But average score with joint plus co-applicant means co-applicant who has good co-applicant with co-applicant score is greater than 750. Agreed? Means greater than 750. Then we will give you for 3%. Am I right? Okay. And for example, let's say now bad score with bad score, no financing. Okay. Bad score with 3 months pay stub. Got it? We'll give you 10%. Bad score with applicant, with good applicant, 6%. Okay. Bad score with average applicant, 10%. How about this? So we can make a business here actually. Yeah. Agreed? So these are the scores. So if you see here, how to do this testing? You can say that invalid, valid and all this, but you can only do but there are so many combinations. So what you need to do to this kind of testing is, you will make a matrix. Okay. So if you see good score, average score, agreed, bad score, agreed, bad score, applicant, agreed, applicant, let's say good applicant, bad applicant, 3 months history. Okay, 3 months history, 3 months. Okay, good score and no applicant. Actually there will be one more thing in set, no applicant. Okay, no applicant. So good score we don't need. So I need to test good score with no applicant. I need to test this. Agree? So I need to write test case 1 for this. Good score with any applicant. Does good score need any applicant? No. So you don't need any test case for this. You don't need any test case for this. When you have a good score, you will go with no co-applicant. So I have to make a test case for this combination. I have to make a test case for this combination. Agreed? Do I need to make a test case for good score with applicant at all? No, I don't need. I don't care good applicant, bad applicant. I don't need 3 months of pay stub. I have a good score. Agreed? Even I'm jobless, you should give me financing. Agreed? I don't know whether they will do it or not. They don't? Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So coming back. So then average score. I have average score. No applicant. Yes, you are still eligible. I will write a test case for that. Average score with good applicant. I don't know average score with good applicant. Yes, that is test case. I will write another test case for this. Average score with bad applicant. Maybe that is possible. I will write test case 4. Average score with 3 months. Average score with 3 months. You don't need this 3 months score, job or anything for average score. Okay, not available. Bad score with no applicant. You can't do. If you are a bad score, you need an applicant. Agree? So there is no test case out there. So I have to write a test case 6 here. I have to write actually test case 5 here. I have to write test case 5 here. I have to write test case 6 here. I have to write test case 7 here. So how many test cases do I need to test that functionality? How many test cases do I need to test that combinations? I need 7 test cases. You understood, right? I'm not talking about equivalence partitioning. I'm not talking about, score less than 600. I'm not talking about this score from here, but from there. I'm not talking about 0 score. I'm not talking about this kind of stuff. Agreed? So 7 test cases are needed to do decision analysis on this. Cover all the combinations. But it's not 10. Do you see that? It's not 10. It's only, actually it's not, see, the combinations is 3 into 4, 12. But you don't need 12 test cases. You need only 7 test cases. If you didn't make this matrix, do you know we should do 7 test cases? No. Since you don't have to do matrix on the paper, you have to think the combination is possible. This is not good applicant, good co-applicant. Okay, let me write it clearly. Co-applicant. Okay. So you are saying something? Yes, tell me. What is the combination you wanted? So if you have a bad score and good applicant, yes, because the rate is 3% here, the rate is 6% here, the rate is 10% here. Am I right? The rate is 3% here, sorry, 6% here, or 10%, 6%, 3%. It's 3%. You understood? So the rate changes depending upon these combinations. Can we change decision tables for all applications? No. For example, if you are really doing testing for login, you already got everything from valid, invalid only. That is not combinations. The functionality, if it is mixing up with combinations, that is the case. Login is valid, invalid logins. Login is not mixing with anyone else. But here, it is applicant. Means there are 2 things in this functionality. Agree? One is you can have co-applicant, one is you can have. So what is the difference between decision table and requirement traceability matrix? Very good question. First, see, I wrote 100 test cases. I don't know how I made the test cases. Did I make it by equivalence partitioning? Did I make it by boundary value analysis? Did I make it by decision table? Did I make it by some other technique? I don't care. I made 100 test cases. I have 50 requirements. I am mapping my test cases to requirements so that I know I did not skip any requirement. Is that anything related to this? No. Now I have a requirement. This requirement is very confusing to me. There are so many combinations and permutations in this requirement. I cannot solve this requirement. I don't know how to write test cases. I can't solve it by equivalence partitioning. I can't solve it by boundary value analysis. What is the technique you need to use here? Decision table. So when you put a decision table here, between, see, these are entities inside the requirement. See, good score, co-applicant or something, they are inside entities inside the requirement whose combination gives a solution. So I am putting a matrix so that I know which combinations are possible, which combinations are not possible, so that I know how many test cases I need to write. Am I clear here, Kavita? They are not, say, these testings are not something which is written on paper tomorrow. They should be on our back of our mind. We are there to write test cases. We are not there to write techniques. Am I clear? There is a problem. You want to solve it. In the back of mind, this technique should run. For example, there is an elevator. For example, I will ask you. I will give you an elevator. Write me the test cases. How will you approach? You have to approach by techniques. You have to approach by requirement, so that you cover everything. Am I clear? For example, how would you know that? How would you know that I will go into elevator and I won't turn on the switch button? Because that is an invalid scenario. Now think more invalid scenarios. Yeah, I will put a heavy box in the elevator. Agreed? And will it move? Very good. And tell me some more invalid cases. I will press 2 and I will press 1 automatically. Will it stay in 1 or will it go to 2? I don't know. Agreed? It should not accept 1 at all after pressing 2 unless it is on 2. That is invalid testing. I will press 2 buttons at a time. I will press 2 buttons at a time. It should wait until I press single button again. Agreed? These are all invalid cases. How would you know these are invalid cases? Simple, break it. Simple. If this is supposed to work like this, think the reverse way. What it makes in the invalid. Agreed? Somebody stands in between the door. That is an invalid case. Very good. So these are the invalid cases. So come up. There will be more invalid cases than valid cases. You know that. I know that. But you need to come up with it. If you don't know that, you have to look for invalid cases. Would you be looking for invalid cases? No. Simple. Press the button on the floor. You are in. Very good. You go into first floor and you press 1 button. Yes. Very good. Yeah. Okay. So the decision tables is also one thing here. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. So this is decision tables is when there are combination of things. That pressing these buttons is not combination. Agree? When, for example, this kind of offers or how to derive a calculation, financing, or these things have multiple. See, all the techniques are not useful for every problem. Some techniques are useful for some problems, some techniques are not useful for some problems. You need to know it. Agree? Yeah, coming back. Let's go move forward. So are we good with the decision tables? Okay. So then there is use case testing. Somebody wrote a use case there. So what is there in the use case? If there is a use case, what is there in the use case? If there is a use case, let's go for templates. Where is the templates? Yeah. Where if there is a use case, what is there in the use case? A use case will have a description and the normal flow and the alternate flow, right? So if you see here, use case for like ordering, like for example, let's take only one use case. Okay. Order meal is a use case. Means this will preconditions, post conditions, and like this is the normal flow. Agree? This is the normal flow. Okay. So this is the normal flow. Normal flow is like how you order a single meal. Agree? Alternative flow is like you can order multiple meals, or you can order with identical meals, order with daily special. So when you have a use case document like this, you have to write a test case for normal flow and every possible alternate flow. That is nothing but valid and invalid cases actually. Okay. If they give you use case, they are already doing the job for you. Agree? So you should definitely write for them. But should I just write what is in the use case and forget about the rest? You have to do more test cases. Tester is the one who will do more test cases than the developer, BA and anyone else. Because you are the one who is responsible for testing it. They are not the one who is responsible for testing it. So you should have more test cases than anyone else. And you should have better test cases than anyone else. Great? Okay. Yeah. Next, let's go to, so that is called use case testing technique. Okay. That is called, so it is nothing but taking test cases from use cases. Okay. Then there is something called state-based testing. What is the state-based testing? Yeah. I go and enter, for example, on white box QA. Okay. Let's say, I will come back to it. Okay. Yes, you are right. But let me explain to you. Okay. So, for example, let's say on white box QA, you have your email address. You have your email address, and you forgot your password. Okay. So now you will enter your email address. So email@gmail.com. Okay. This is your email. You forgot your password. Instead of white box QA1, you are typing white box QA. What will happen now? So this is a test case, right? Forgot, valid email address, invalid password. Agree? So that is an invalid case, right? In equivalence partitioning, it is invalid case. So when you do equivalence partitioning, valid email address, valid password, it should log in. Not registered email address, password, it should tell you are not a registered user. If I give a valid email address and different password, it should tell your password is incorrect. Okay, email address and password are not matching. That is the key. Agreed? If you don't give anything, it will tell that missing information. Please enter all the details. Agreed? So when I give this, what it should give me? Tell me. What it should give me? Username and password are not matching. Generally, they will give you that because you can't tell invalid password. Because this password might be valid, password not matching. Okay? Alright? This is the key. If you come on, do it again, like let's say you forgot that you thought that okay, it starts with capital W. It is still invalid password. What will happen now? Again, now what will happen? Username and password not. You will do this again. What will happen now? You give all caps. What will happen now? Your maximum attempts, you have reached your maximum attempts. Your account is logged. You please contact administration. We are not doing that. I am just giving an example. Okay. Your account is logged. Account is logged. So, what I mean is like, this is the same test case. This is the same test case. This is the same test case. When you are doing the same test case, you are getting one expected result. When you are doing the same test case, you are getting the different expected result because the state of the account changed. Agree? This is called state-based testing. The account moves from active to inactive on 3 unsuccessful attempts. So the state of the account went into locked state. Agree? So if you use, how many times you use this test case, what will you get? Your account is locked. Your account is locked. Agree? So please contact administration or something. Yes, withdrawing the money from ATM. For example, you have, let's say you transferred $1,000 today. And if you are transferring $1,000 again, what will you tell? You have, capacity for the day and you can't limit for the day. You can't transfer more. If you are transferring 2,500 more than a week, in a week, more than 2,500 in a week, you have reached the max cap of a week, so you can't transfer more. So these are different states of that entity or that functionality. So it's not only about valid and invalid. depending upon the state of the functionality, the test case changes. So you need to see how many states the functionality can be in, and you need to test depending upon the state. What is this called? State-based testing. State-based testing. So anyone from computer science background? Computer science background? Do you know what is finite state machine? Finite state machine, FSM. Okay. State diagrams. State diagrams. Okay. State transition tables. State transition tables. So same thing. Okay. Okay, same thing. Okay. So generally, if you put it in a picture, it will look like this. So generally, it will move from one state to another state. Okay, one state to another state. If you do one try, second try, third try, it came into another state. So this is called state-based diagrams. Okay, state-based diagrams. Okay. All right. And this is state table. How to go into this state? How to go into this state? How to go into this state? Understood? So this is state table. Yes, I can maximize. New card, you will access, if you started state, like if you do invalid, it will go for S6. Okay. If you do third one, it will come to S7. Okay. Yeah, generally what happens is like, so generally you need to know what are the states first. So this is S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, S7. Agreed? Agreed? These are S means starting is state S1 and waiting for pin is S2. And if you give a invalid entry, that is S3. If you do that again, it's S4. If you do that again, S5. If you do S1 and S2, S3 and S4, it will come to S6. If you do S5, it will go to S7. There is this difference. Same thing. Same thing. It is coming to, if you do S2, S6, S3, S6, S4, S6, S5, S7. Understood, right? Got it? Yeah. And there will be a testing fundamentals test coming up, right? Yeah. When is that? Coming Tuesday? Wow, very good. Okay. Yeah, so there is and there will be a question on this for sure. Okay, there will be a question on that state-based testing technique. Okay. Say that again. So I am not taking the test. Generally, Shilpi will be conducting all the exams. So they will be on Tuesday evening. Most of the time, we will conduct our exams on Tuesday evening. So whatever we have covered until now in testing will be there in the exam. Only testing, no SQL. You can do it online, you can do it in class. It's up to you, but most of it is online. So make it online. Okay, so it's online. You can. So how will you upload your test? When you do it online, how will you upload your test? Same assignments page. You'll go to assignments page. Agreed? Where is the assignments page? Yeah. And you will write your exam. You will choose your file and you will upload. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So it won't be that simple. They won't ask you what is state-based technique. Okay. They will ask. They will give you a problem and solve this by state-based testing. Does that include SDLC? Yes, maybe. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, let's not worry about that. Let's go see. We have only 1 more hour. Let's finish this. Okay. Yeah.
Can you give us an example and then we can say state-based testing?
I already gave you one example. What is that example I gave you? In login in. For example, you go to ATM. Same thing. You put invalid pin, invalid pin, invalid pin. Or you go to transferring more than 1,000 per day, right? Yeah. So anything, so anything which goes into logged or some other state, that is state-based testing. For example, like you default some payments on, mortgage loan or something. The state of your account changes. Agreed? So those are some, if you don't pay your credit card bills or anything, state changes. So you'll be receiving calls at that time.
So you matched your credit card.
You matched your credit card. Very good.
It has already
Yeah,
does-
that's one thing. State-based testing. Yeah, so that is also state-based testing. Very good. Agreed. All right. Coming back. So then there are some other, low key techniques which are very specific to problem. Classification tree is also just like equivalence partitioning. Means you make a tree instead of domains. Tree is sometimes there might be number of possible cases, invalid cases. At that time they make tree. Got it? So they make a tree of, depending upon for each branch they need to test it. But these are, remember, these concepts are all textbook concepts. You have to learn and apply them. You don't have to, by heart them or something like that. Just take it, observe it, leave it. That's it. So classification tree is something. For example, there are a tree of choices. For example, from one node you'll go to another node. From one node you'll go to another node. So at that time you have to write a tree. But who has a time to write a tree here? Got it? So you have to assume, for example, let's say you took financing and something. You paid like until for 1 year. Now you want to refinance. So you should be in financing after 1 year. So it's a branch and refinancing. Understood? Got it? So refinancing options. Those are like a child branch inside financing. Got it? So generally people will say you should write a tree, but I don't think so.
It's not used now.
Because that all you can put it in precondition. The loan is running, the financing is running, already approved, and at this rate, so you have that precondition. You can still solve that problem again with equivalence partitioning. Means, see, classification tree, you don't have to use classification tree, because if you really use equivalence partitioning, well, you can solve it. Not a problem. Okay, so then there is something called pairwise testing. Let's see what is pairwise testing. Okay, pairwise testing is also like decision table only. Okay, for example, let's say you take two things at a time and you test it. Okay, let's say now, for example, I want to do transfer. I want to do account transfers testing. I will take two, accounts with $1 billion. I will take two accounts with no dollars or negative balance. Pair combination testing. Got it? Or I will take one good account, one bad account. Like this is called pairwise testing. But again, finally you will reach the same goal. Understood, right? So that is one kind of approach, but I don't think that is popular, right?
This would be faster, right? If it is a pairwise.
If it is pairwise, you might lose something. You might lose a permutation and combination if you think that is the right approach. I don't think it might be good in some instances, may not be good in all the instances. Okay, but finally again, I would say you should always come from top to down. Equivalence first, boundary next, and decision, and then state. Okay, you can't just start with state first. Okay, first is the valid of the function. Remember, whenever someone asks you to write a test cases, what is the first test case? Valid test case. If everything is right, how it is working? If everything is right and if it is still not working, what is the use of testing other test cases? I go into a lift and I am on the ground floor and I press second floor. If it is not going to second floor, what is the point in testing? I come into the same floor and I will press, I will not press the button. What is the point of doing that? First of all, it is not doing what it is supposed to do. Agree? So first test valid test case. So everything will start from where? Valid test case. Okay? Yeah. Agreed? Now then there is something called error guessing. So this is something, not a technique which can be explained. It should be felt. You know, it's a knack of knowledge. Like you have that thing to break things. For example, the lift is there. The lift is there. For example, let's say invalid testing. Same requirement taken by two and writing test cases and comparing as there is. No, that is not pairwise testing. No, that is not pairwise testing. You are taking combinations of input parameters, not to be two testers. That is, there is pair programming, but there is no pair testing. This is pair-wise testing. The combination of parameters, not combination of testers. Am I clear? Okay. So there is no pair testing. You will never share with another tester. Okay. Yeah. Coming back. For example, see what is let's say error guessing. Okay. Pressing two buttons at one time. That is more of like, acting smart. So when you come up with test cases acting smart, that is called error guessing. Then for example, let's say you have to enter something. You don't enter and submit. That is error guessing. Agree? You don't enter anything. For example, you go on to lift. You don't enter don't press the button. Or for example, you press two buttons. Or let's say you will put something on the door. That will never go anywhere. Agree? That will never go anywhere. So this kind of testing is called error guessing. Generally, in programming, nulls, zeros, if you put nothing, if you put zero. For example, if someone has a credit score of 0, that is a crazy case. Agree? And someone has a credit score of negative credit score. You never know. But think like someone got negative credit score. How will the system behave? But that won't happen in real world. But if it happens, how it will behave? Right? So if the system cannot still say this is not a valid credit score. Understood, right? Okay. So negative credit score or something like this is more of, if there is a number, the number can be negative. Agree? For example, SSN, putting a character inside a SSN. Agree? Phone number, putting it in, different way. Phone number. For example, let's say, what else? Email address, putting 2 signs. Okay, we are trying to act smart there. That is called error guessing. So the only goal is to break. Once all these test cases are done, you can do anything to break the system. Agree? You can put anything to break the system. Okay, those kind of test cases. Okay. Alright. There is also one more thing called exploratory testing. Exploratory. Okay, one second. Okay. For example, this is not possible in IT applications or anything. For example, let's say NASA is building a robot or something. Does it know how the robot will behave after it is made? No, it's a research kind of project. They need to do it and they need to know how it is behaving. Based on that, they will go and back and do something else and it will behave like. So there is no clear requirement what will come out of this research. So you are testing and again exploring how it is. You don't know how it will behave. You will test it to know how it is behaving. Agree? So there is no clear cut requirement saying that this is how it has to behave. So you do the testing to know how it is behaving. Agree? So that is called exploratory testing. What is the difference between invalid and error guessing? Invalid means less than 650 is invalid. Because it is clearly telling the domain is from 650 credit score to 900 credit score is valid. Means what is invalid? Anything less than 650 is invalid. Anything above 900 is valid. But does it tell you to go and test a negative number? Did it tell that try 0? No, that is error guessing. Agree? Error guessing is always invalid. But that does not mean both techniques are same. Invalid only said that take anything less than 650.
So how would we define, we already know what error guessing is, but how would we define it?
You don't have to know. Finally, no one is asking you to write how many techniques are there. They are asking you to write test cases for this. I don't care which one you used. Techniques are here to guide you. Techniques are not here to tell you, oh, which technique is this. I don't care. Did I get enough test cases? Are you trying to cover every possible thing? That is what I need. These techniques are helping you to get there. but there is no guarantee that you will get there. Understood? Yeah. Yeah.
In the example which you gave for the credit score, so we will be using almost all.
Okay, now I will give you another problem. Let's try to solve that using techniques. Whether we will really improve ourselves or not. So before this class, how many test cases you can come up, and after this class, how many test cases you can come up can show you. Really, we can techniques be helpful or not? We know that is invalid, but error guessing is deviation from normal scenario. Error guessing is looking for errors. Invalid is looking for invalid scenarios. If I don't give a right password, it should guide me telling that the it's not matching. If I try to put something to at the rates, that is trying to be smart. Got it? So error guessing is all about trying to catch an error. All your goal is to try to catch an error. Break the system. Invalid scenario is written in the requirement. If you don't give right password, we will show you this message. If it is not written in BRD also, it is, you know it. It should show some nice message. Not an error. Agreed? You are not particularly looking for an error. You are trying to cover the scenario. Alternate flows. Okay? Alright, let's try to come up with a problem. I am trying to give you interview questions. Okay. There is a Coke tin with Coke inside it. It's not open. Write me test cases for it. Okay, let's use can here. Okay, give me the test cases for it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Alright, so give me the test cases. So I have a can of Coke and I want you to give me test cases. I don't tell me technique, please. I don't want you to tell me technique because I already know. I'm not asking you. So it's all about opening. Means it can be. It's all about opening.
So what we have to test?
Means I want see. I have a Coke can. Can I drink Coke or not? That is what I want you to test. Open, you know, the snap the, what is that? Let's say handle, okay. Snap the handle without much force. The Coke should not spill, and I should be able to drink it nicely. Very good. So while we open, if you try to put more force, okay, try to put more force, the handle should not break. Come on, so you know, come in a pattern, equivalence partition. Yeah. Okay, no problem. Yeah, go ahead. Can is not leaking. Yeah.
When you open, you should be able to drink the Coke. I mean,
Should not poke your hand. Okay. Date should not. Yeah, expiration date. Okay. Yeah. Expiration date should be there on the can. Okay. Alright. Very good. Next. It should be cold. We are not. It is not mandatory. For example, if I open a cold one, or for example, it's a frozen one, you know, if it is, for example, if the room temperature is above this one, you know, if the room temperature is above, let's say, like if the temperature is normal, like 70 degree Fahrenheit or something, it should not spill out, or it should not be frozen or say, yeah, okay. For example, you can test at hot temperatures, you can test at cold temperatures. Very good. Okay. You're putting it in the freezer. If you hit hard, it will not break. Okay. It should not get rusted. Okay, very good. If you put it in, okay, all liquid, yeah, it should be liquid. Very good. Yeah, that is a good test case. All right. Come, keep it coming.
Edges shouldn't be sharp.
Yeah, edges shouldn't be sharp, or it should not, cut your mouth, lips or something. Very good. Keep it coming.
And when you open, it shouldn't go in.
The handle should not go in. Okay, very good. Keep it coming. More. Easy to open or not? Very good. More. Easy to hold. Straight. For example, there is a hole to the can, and all the coke leak. So when I hold it, it should, I should be able to, yeah. So, okay, and there should be coke inside the coke can. Yeah. So make sure it is coke. It is not something else. Agree? So there is coke inside the coke. Agree? Yeah, it is normal or something. Yeah. So shouldn't sleep. Okay. So
Flat. Yeah, it's not flat.
flat means okay.
Gasoline.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So okay. All right. It should be flat. Okay. So
If it's flat, then that's just
yeah. Okay. So these are some of the test cases. Agree? So now very good. Should be clean. Should be clean. Okay. Should not contain any pesticides. So these are something. So you can come up with as many test cases. You can boundary. So think about boundary. The amount of liquid inside it should be equal to the mentioned on the content. That's boundary. Agree? So if you don't know what is boundary, then you should know boundary. Agree? So that is first thing. And the nutrition facts mentioned outside should be the same. Am I clear? Okay. More. Keep it. So think about decision tables. For example, I shake the can for 1 hour and I go out. I come back after 1 hour. When I open the can, it should not spill. It should not spill. I shake it right away and I open it. It should spill. Okay, I don't care. After that, I don't care. If I put it in the refrigerator at 0 degree Fahrenheit for like 2 hours, and when I come, it should be frozen. But the dimension, it should not break. It should expand. It can only expand to this point. At 0 degree Fahrenheit, it can expand. It will expand, but it will not break. But if it is at 0 degree Fahrenheit for 2 days, it will break. So these are the, so that is, decision table. You can use some other. Coke should get chemical reaction with can. Okay, should not get. Okay, very good. All right. Yeah, if you put inside the microwave, it should burst. Okay. All right, very good. It will, means we know what temperature. So we are testing the boundary, which temperature it will break, at which temperature it will break either way. Means you have to test for that boundaries too. And state-based testing. I opened the Coke for 1 hour and I didn't drink it. I come back and drink it. It should taste bad, right? Remember, that is state-based testing. If I drink it right away in the cold temperature, I will feel it good. Means so you can write test cases for that too. Okay. If it is opened and left for 1 year. Okay. So yeah. So this kind of it's not flammable and everything. Very good. You are writing good test cases. Let's not go into Coke can anymore. Let's come to something else. Okay.
But the thing is, real life scenarios, when we sit on our test, somebody comes up with something to test. What we should
So there is no end for testing. Did I cover enough is enough. Agree? Did I cover the basic or whatever I think enough is enough. Writing my test cases for Google search enough. Just the search. I am not asking how the image looks or anything. I am asking only functional. I am not asking about performance. I am not asking about usability. I am asking about this box, this search. I am not asking about I am feeling lucky too. Okay? If nothing is entered and first tell me valid case. Always start with valid case, please. Yeah. If I type what keyword, tell me what is the keyword you want to type. Apple. And if I type Apple and I search, I should get apple.com in the beginning. Very good. That is valid test case. Now tell me more. Nothing is typed and I will search. Nothing should come up. Very good. I will type some garbage. Wait. Hold on. Hold on. See, please press enter. Okay, let's say press enter. So your search did not match any document, so that should come. Very good. Keep it coming. So equivalence partitioning is done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yes.
Voice search is also there, but okay, let's not go into voice search. Okay, yeah, voice search is also there. So there are many test cases on voice search also. Okay, is equivalence partitioning done? I will search a link. I will search file type is equal to PDF, and I will search Apple. That is searching PDFs on this one. Agreed? Searching formulas, searching weather, searching movies, searching something shopping, and everything is new. Movies. 9, 4, 5. Do you see that? Agree? So that is search. So so these are different kinds of searches, different kinds of domains. Okay?
These
So
are valid.
these are valid, but valid domains. Valid domains. Many domains are there. Okay, now come to boundary testing. Okay, let's go move on. Surprise me, please. Searching for websites, very good. Searching military information, wow. Okay. Alright, I will take it. Yeah.
It should give, if you type Apple, it should.
Searching for something which is not indexed. Searching for something which is indexed. So you don't understand what is indexing. So let's move on. It's okay. Index means if you create a new website today, it won't be indexed. It won't come in google.com. It takes time to consume it, index it, and it will come into that. So 10 days after creating the site, 5 days after creating the site, 1 month after creating the site. Very good. Next, come searching for phone numbers. Very good. Agreed. Okay, move on to boundary. Searching for a big book, you write a page of a book and you try to search. Sometimes it will end number. What are the max number of characters? What are the max number of characters? Let's see. There is an end for these characters, right? It can't be forever. So 50 or something. You can't type more than that. So you will try 51. You will try 50. Agree? Yeah, a paragraph and everything. And if you type with and or you won't get any results. What is this and? For example, if you are searching for and, let's say QA and, let's say if you are searching search. Okay. So Twitter search came first, not Google search. Okay, so if you are and or cannot be implemented. For example, white box QA and let's say testing. It is not adding both of them. It is looking for and keyword. If you want to add, you have to use plus sign. Understand? You can use within the codes. Yes, localization, very good. Security, boundary, decision. Any decision, no decisions here. Nothing, because no combinations are there. But there can be combinations. For example, keyword, file type combination, file type PDF, white box QA plus testing. Got it? Wow. It is searching something which it shouldn't support. Okay, very good. Alright. See, it is searching all the PDF documents on the site. Got it? Okay. It is searching for entry questions also. Okay, got it? It is searching, it's not this site. Yeah. So it is searching for some user guide and some other things. So you can come up with more combinations. State-based testing. Give me a state-based testing.
Maximum number of pages. I don't know. Would there be a state?
Generally, we are not going into any state because your account or nothing is there. But generally, if you come to the number of pages, if you are at the end page, you can't move forward. If you are in the beginning page, you can't move backward. Agree? So that is a state for page, not for search. Agree?
But otherwise, there isn't really a.
Say it again.
search was not providing more than 6 pages.
Yes, particular, yeah, agreed, but if you are on the last page, you can't move forward. So that is like a state. So, and searching for pictures, okay, and making the doodle play. Okay, forget about that. Searching for pictures also, like you can search file type is equal to picture. Okay, or image maybe. Yeah, JPEG. Wow. Okay, I don't care. Okay. Yeah. You can give code also, searching for code, max number of pages, and drawing images, localization. Code search is also different. Like you can search for public static void main. They will give, but you can put it in some other way. So generally, if you want to have a help on Google search, so generally search tools. If you see here, and it should give you the result, how many seconds it took and how many results are there. Okay, this is also important. Okay, and let's say you can search for images and everything, that is later. Developers live and okay, right. So some other things are there. So so generally these kind of questions will be asked in interviews. They'll give you a random problem and ask you to write test cases. When this kind of problem comes to you in the interview, you should not stop the test cases until they ask you to stop. I don't want anyone to say, okay, 2 test cases and just wait for their answer. No. Keep on coming up with test cases until they get bored by you. Okay, I got it, test cases. Am I clear? Every invalid boundary, whatever, error guessing, whatever, come up with everything possible until they ask you to stop. Okay, that is deal. Am I clear here what I'm telling? So you should not stop test cases until they ask you to stop it. Okay, next, let's move on. They won't ask you like that. Okay, alright. So they won't ask about the techniques and everything. Okay, they will only ask write test cases. So white box testing techniques. Okay, white box testing is all about testing code. Am I right? Testing code. Agreed? So now, right now, there is this piece of code. I don't have copy either. Okay, can everyone see this code? Can everyone see this code? Okay. So if you see this code, can everyone tell me what is happening here? I am passing parameters. What are the parameter names? A, B and X. What type they are? Integer. Can everyone online also, if you know it, please type there. I need to know whether you can read this program or not. Okay, everyone online, I am repeating this again. I need to know whether you know this or not. So please type in what this program is doing. Everyone. So if you know there are 3 parameters, something like that. So how many parameters are there into this program? 3. What type they are? Integer. What are integers mean? Integers are numbers. Wow, very good. Okay, so when you have integers, so if you go through this program, what is this doing here? If the value of A is greater than 1, if the value of B is equal to 0, we should execute that X is equal to X by A. Okay, and if what is this doing? So who is the one changing out of A, B and X? Who is the one which changes in the program? Who is the one which is changing in the program? X. X is changing. See, if I give A, say for example, now I will give you 2005 or 2010. Tell me what will happen to x. I will give you one second. I will write it down here. I will give you for a, b and x 2010. Now tell me what will happen to x. X is 5. Anyone?
Oh, no. 11. X is 11.
Anyone?
X is also dividing x by a.
It will cause this one, it will give an error. It will go into both the loops.
It will
It's not loop, it's a condition.
Condition.
Yeah.
It will add functions, then x will divide by a.
Anyone? So keep it coming. Everyone, please tell me what is the answer.
X is equal to
X equals to 11 divided by a is 2.
X is equal to 6.
You don't. Some of you don't have to change the answer just because I asked you again. Okay? No. The reason is some of you are right before. Okay?
X is 6.
Please, everyone, just type it there. It's okay. See, it's okay if I judge you. It's not okay if others judge you. Am I clear? I should judge you. My duty is to judge you. Okay, so don't feel, it's a program. You are not meant to know this. But I want you to try it. I want to see your analytical skills there.
X divided by a will give values in point or no.
Okay, so, okay. Alright, so what is A? Tell me what is A? A is 2. What is B? 0. And what is X? 10. If A is greater than 1, is 2 is greater than 1? Is 2 is greater than 1? 2 is greater than 1. And is B is equal to 0? So then X is equal to X by A. What is X? 10 by what? 2. What is 10 by 2? So now exchange from 10 to what? 2. Sorry, 10 to 5. So coming back, if A is equal to 2, is A 2? Is X greater than 1? Okay, actually our condition, so either of them should satisfy. Here both of them should satisfy, either one of them should satisfy. So it will come in. So X is equal to X plus 1. What is X? 5. What is 5 plus 1? 6. It's 6. X is 6. Yeah, some of you said it right actually. And many of you said it right. Yeah. Okay. So X is 6. You understood, right? If you want to write test cases for this program, if you are a white box tester, if you have to write test cases for this program, tell me how will you come up with the test cases? You can't use equivalence partitioning. You can't use boundary value analysis. You can't use state-based testing. Nothing is there. How will you write a see? It's okay. You are not doing white box testing, but I still want you to, in this point of time, to understand that, because you need to know what is white box testing. Okay. So if you want to write test cases for this, how will you write test cases for this? Okay, passing characters. The program won't take characters when it is integer. So there is no point of doing invalid testing here. Because a program, you can't call it. The program will not compile. It will stop you there. Program to program communication cannot be invalid. Understood, right? It won't compile. If you won't compile, you are not testing it. If I am giving negative numbers, that is very good. But they can accept any integers. They can accept any integers. So if you give a negative numbers, nothing will satisfy. So it will come back negative integers. So if you give negative integers, it will come back negative integers. So that is not the way to test this. How will you test this functionality?
You give valid inputs and test if it's
You can't give characters here. So in programming, remember this. If it takes integer, I have to give integer only. I can't give character. Why? The program says that you can't call me with characters. Programs are strict. User interfaces are more flexible, allowing everything because it's user enters. But program, you can't call a program when it's taking in, you can't call with the character. So there is no way of giving character there. There is no way of giving anything other than integer. You can't even give a decimal number there. You can't even give 1.1 there. You have to give integer only. Integer is whole number. It's positives or negatives. Okay. So now there is a technique called, first technique is called code coverage. In black box testing, we try to cover requirements. In white box testing, we try to cover the code. So we need to write test cases to cover this code. Before we wrote the test cases to cover the requirements. Here we need to. So there are three ways in code coverage. One is called statement coverage. The next one is called decision coverage. And third one is called condition coverage. But more or less they are same. Okay, coverage. Okay. What is a statement? Anyone?
That is if.
No, that is not the statement. Anything which ends with a semicolon is a statement. Remember that. Anything which ends with a semicolon, shortcut. But remember, if you are using VB language, that is not true. But if you use any C-based language like Perl, Python, PHP, C#, Ruby, Java, everything that is same, ends with semicolon. How many statements are there in this program? How many statements are there in this program? 2. So write me test cases to cover these two statements. Okay. So if I write 2, 0, 10, am I covering both the statements? Am I covering both the statements? If I write a test case with a 2, 0, 10. If I give inputs to, what is test case? Set of inputs, you call the method, you get expected. What is the expected? X is equal to what? 6. Because both statements should execute. X equal to x by a, x equal to x plus 1. So it will come to what? 6. So if I give 2, 0, 10, I should get out 6. So am I covering both the statements? This will execute, this will execute. Agree? Very good. Alright? Agree. Then there is something called decision coverage. Can you tell me who is making the decision in this program? This if condition is making this decision, and this if condition is making this decision. Agree? Okay. So every decision has, so when you make a decision, you can satisfy the decision or you may not satisfy the decision. So what are the two possibilities of this? True or false. This can be true, this can be false. So this decision has two conditions. Agreed? So this if condition has two conditions. So first, how many decisions are there? Decision 1. Decision 1. How many conditions? Condition 1, condition 1, condition 2. Agreed? What is condition 1 and what is condition 2? Actually, let's try DC like that. Decision. Yeah, decision 1. It has what? C1, C2. And decision 2 also. Decision 2 also will have what? C1, C2. Okay. So now there are two decisions in this program. There are two decisions in this program. So you can take C1, C2 means like C1, C2, C1, C2, C2, C1. Understood? Like let's see D1, C1, D1, C2. Yeah, this D1, C2. Let me write D2, C1 and D2, C1. So how many test cases will come from this? D1, C1 and D2, C1. Agreed? D1, C1, D2, C2. This can be true, this can be false. Agreed? C2 and D2, C1. Okay, D2, C1, D2. What is this? D1, C2 actually. I'm very sorry for that. Okay, D2, C1. Okay, agree? Both true, both false. One true, one false, one false, one true. Simple. Am I clear? Now write me test cases. Both true. Both true means this one is true, this one is true. What is that? I already wrote that. 2, 0, 10, and what is the expected value? 6. Only first one true, second one false. 2, 0, 2, 0, 2, 0, and 0. Actually not 2. Let's say 3, 0, 0. Am I clear? It will, first one will pass, second one will not pass. Am I clear? Okay. Now coming back here again, D1 C2, right? So this false. This false means 1, 10. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. 10. Okay. It will go to the second one because x is greater than 1. It's OR condition here. This is AND condition here. This is OR condition here. Okay, what is the fourth one? Both are false. 10,
and 0.
0, sorry, 10, 0. Got it? It won't go into anything. So how many test cases are needed to test that program?
No, the first one should be 1. A should be 1.
It's okay. It's okay. You can have 10, but this is AND. Both should satisfy. This is OR. Only one of them should satisfy. Okay. So how many test cases are needed to test this program? 4. Because we followed techniques. That is called statement coverage, decision coverage, and condition coverage. By these 4 test cases, we are covering every statement, every condition, every decision in that program. So this is called white box testing. So you need to read more programs. Okay, all right. Okay, so white box testing is testing programs, but writing code is not white box testing. Am I clear again? You will write code tomorrow, but to do black box testing. Writing code, Selenium, QTP and all are black box. Because you are not testing code. To test code, you don't need any tool, first of all. You need programming skills. To test an application, you need a tool. The tool needs programming. That is different. Okay? Yeah. Selenium is not white box. Okay, coming back. Now, so I already covered. So if you see how many test cases are there, these are the test cases. Okay? Means true, true, false, false, true, false, sorry, false, true, true, false. Agreed? Yeah. When there is a program, there is a leak. What is leak called in programming? You know, we heard about memory leak before. I told, right? Memory leak, memory will be leaking, you know. So, read this program and tell me where is the memory leak. Anyone? Read this program, tell me where is the memory leak. Okay, so you didn't read this slide before? Just want to make sure that is right. Exactly right. Okay, that is very good. Okay, someone already in the classroom told the answer, but anyone from online? Anyone from online? Delete buffer. Very good, Rani, but can you explain me, or Anuradha? Anyone? Hold on. Yeah, Rani, can you speak up?
Rani, can you speak up?
What do you mean by delete buffer?
Delete buffer there?
Like whatever
Kavita is
saved
saying
inside the
flag.
value. Hello, Sampath?
Rani, you are unmute. You can speak up.
Yeah. Whatever the value which is saved,
Okay, no problem.
100, it's in the buffer.
Anyone online? Anyone online? Can you tell me where is the memory leak? The value in the array is deleted if the flag is 0. Very good. See, you create a buffer, and if the flag is true, you read the buffer and you delete it, because you are reading and after that you can delete. But if the flag is false, you are unnecessarily creating buffer, you are not deleting the buffer if the flag is false. Am I clear here? If the buffer, you create a buffer, but if the flag is true only, you read it and you then delete it. After reading, you will delete it. I am okay with that. But if the flag is true, why are you creating the buffer? If you are creating the buffer, why are you not deleting it? If there is a buffer that is in the RAM, if it is in the RAM took already some of the RAM is allocated. We don't have much space. So if some program is unnecessarily holding memory, which it is not releasing after the task is done, that is called memory leak. Agreed? So if you want to see, if you want to read it and delete it. But if you don't want to read, why are you creating it? Or if you are creating, if you don't want to read, why are you not deleting it? If you are not deleting, means that is there in the RAM. Agreed? So the either delete should be outside, or this should be inside. Agreed? So either delete should be outside or this should be inside. Or you can put a else condition too. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So what is debugging? Can anyone tell me? What is debugging?
When you find a defect, it goes to the developer and the developer does the debugging.
I didn't ask you who does the debugging. What is debugging? Fixing the bug is not debugging. Finding the piece of code which is causing this error is called debugging. Finally, it happens on a line. Finally, it happens somewhere. So, finding the root cause of that bug is called debugging. Okay? Very good. Who does debugging? Does tester do debugging? Developer. Very good. Okay. What is automation? See, for example, I will ask you, there is a login, there is this login box here. For example, when you go to login box here, this will come. So tell me some test cases for this login box. Registered email address, good, valid password, and invalid password, or not unregistered username, or no username, no password. These are 4 things you have to do. So how will you come and do the testing? You will write your test cases. And again, did Praveen teach you how to write test cases in Excel? Not in Excel. Yeah. Alright. Okay. So you will write test cases and you will come and do it. So how will you do it? For example, I will go and write my test cases in Excel sheet. I will show you how to write test cases now. Okay, give me a few minutes. But once you write the test cases, how do you do your testing? You will read it, you will come and do it manually. Am I right? For example, there is a bug again. There is a bug. You have to do it again. Retesting until the bug is fixed. Agree? For example, tomorrow I do feature releases. Regression testing. So how many times you will do this testing? Manual. Again and again and again and again. Even after it is fixed, verified, you will do regression testing too. In the next releases. Something is broken in future also. If someone else can come and do it, if I run a program, if the program does it, it would be very nice, right? That is automation. Simple. Why do you need automation? You will tell the tool what to do. Come and enter this and verify this is happening. Agree? So for example, the tool will come and enter this information and you will click login and make sure you see this link. If you are seeing this link, means you are logged in. Agree? So the tool, if someone tool can do it, that is very good. So that is called automation. Agree? So automation is good, not bad. But the only thing is you need to know tools, you need to know how to program. But challenges of automation. Generally, most of the time you need to automate. Why do we need to automate? Repeatability. And leverage means you don't have to do it manually. And means you can't do repeated times if it is manually. And another thing is productivity. Doing fast, reducing the test cycle time. If you are reducing, if you run it, it will automatically run it. If you do it manually, you have to spend so many hours. So repeat, and reduces redundancy. And another thing is process improvement, increase regression testing. You can do more frequent regression testings. Your test cycles will come down, your regression testing cycles will come down. So your releases will become shorter. Am I right? Your releases will become shorter. And another thing is you get better coverage. If you can do it fast, you will do more testing. In this less time, you will do more testing and better management. Okay. And another thing is, let's say, so there are so many advantages of doing automation, but sometimes it's not good. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. When it is not good, for example, think like we built this white box QA and all the trainees are waiting for this site. We need to give them tomorrow only. Do I have time to build the automation framework and write scripts and everything? If there is no time for delivery, you can't do automation, because automation is doing extra work so that you can save time in future. But if you don't have time right this minute, why to automate? Just do the testing and give it away. So manual is better when there is no time. And the next thing is, think like white box QA. In future, I will not use white box QA. I will not change white box QA. I will not change white box QA site. For example, you come and complain, please implement search functionality. I will say I will not do that. Or if you say, you will come and say there is a bug here, I will not fix it. Means, is there any point of regression in future? Is there any point of testing more in future? So if it is only one time deal, what is the point of automating? Just do it manually. Just do it manually. So one time testing. And if you don't have time, and exploratory testing. If you don't know what to test, how to derive, then there is no point of automation. Okay. And another thing is look and feel. Can you test look and feel? Can you test the look and feel automated? Can you tell that, okay, this button should be here using automation? Those are something only humans can do, look and feel and all this. So this can be automated. And let's say, for example, there is a video and I want you to test that at 1 minute 12 seconds this frame is playing. Can you automate it? You can automate, but automation will take more time than manual. So some situations manual is more easy than automation. Agree? So its usability cannot be automated. And if you don't have time, you should not automate. If it is only one time and if the requirements don't change, you don't need to automate. If you don't have predictable results, you don't need to automate. Agree? So there are times when you should not automate. That is most asked question. When you should not automate.
That's like a common question in lab.
Yes. When to automate? Whenever there is more work. Whenever there is, you want to improve productivity. So there are many things, like, multi-load performance testing, you can't do it by yourself. So you need a tool for performance testing. And if you are continuously doing regression testing, if you are continuously doing retesting, and if you are test based on many same kind of steps, but it runs on multiple data. Steps are same, but I have to do the same steps for 100 times for 100 different test cases. Better to automate. Agree? Yeah. So I will show you how to write test cases and little more, like 15 minutes in Saturday's class, Saturday 10 a.m. And after that we are done with testing, and from Monday, actually Saturday only, I will be going into web fundamentals. What is web?